Welcome back to A Story to Tell from the campus of Dixie State University. I'm Lane Rano. It's good to be talking with you again. We're talking to Andy Morgan today. Andy, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Is Andy a nickname?
Yeah, my name's Andrew.
Andrew.
And Andrew Thomas Morgan, born and raised in Southern California.
That third world country, the Western Nevada, huh?
Yeah. It was a great place to grow up in the orange trees and the smog of Southern California. Yeah.
How long did you live there?
Born in Covina, graduated at Covina High School, and I had one brother and four sisters.
That must have been rough.
Yeah, it's the baby boomer days, the baby boomers, and so we didn't know that a 3-bedroom home where you shared bedrooms was, any different than anybody else, and so we used to walk to school and junior high school and high school until we were old enough to get transportation, and just a great childhood memory.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Before we started, you told me you were an Irish twin. What does that mean?
Well, from what I understand, anytime you have a brother or sister that's less than 12 months old, you would be you're an Irish twin. And so my brother and I are 11 months and 10 days apart. And so we were able to, from what I understand, and my older sisters remind me, that we were hellions around the house, giving my mom quite the challenge while we were little kids growing up.
Now, your sisters are older than the two brothers?
I've got 3 older sisters and 1 younger sister, and my brother, as I said, is a year older than me. Yeah. And so it was a great memory of my childhood days, and back then mothers didn't really work, and so mom was always home when we got home from school. And I eventually graduated from Covina High School in the late 70s, and served a LDS church mission in British Columbia, Canada, and that was just a tremendous experience.
I'll bet.
Yeah. Came home, and I was able to immediately get into my career, which was collision repair technology, commonly known as auto body, and just really fell in love with the hands-on figuring things out trade of repairing and repainting cars. And so I did that for 15 years roughly in the Riverside area. Tried my hand at ownership and management along the way, and then a tremendous opportunity came around, and that was I came home and my wife said, "Hey, I have this newspaper, it's called the St. George Spectrum." And they're advertising for an auto body instructor in a place called Richfield. And so there was no internet, and so we actually had to go to a map and look.
The ad was in the Spectrum?
Yes, advertising.
How did you get the Spectrum?
Well, we had come here the year before on vacation, on a family vacation up to Pine Mountain, and we really kind of fell in love with the St. George area and just felt its energy, and we knew maybe we could start looking outside of Southern California. And so obviously Richfield is not St. George, but it was in Utah, and it was closer than where we were in Southern California. And so it's an interesting story. At that time I flew my own private airplane.
What kind of a plane?
It was a Mooney.
Mooney?
Yeah. And flew that Mooney, not having a lot of experience, right to the airport here up on the bluff. Mm-hmm. And I was too chicken to fly to Richfield over those mountains. So I borrowed a friend's truck, and I took his truck to Richfield. Apparently had a good interview because I got that job. And so we moved the family from the Rialto area to Richfield, more specifically Central Valley and the Monroe area. and started teaching, and that lasted for 18 years. Yeah.
And what's in high school that you taught? Or?
This is both high school, and it was at that time Sevier Valley Applied Technology Center, and so it was commonly referred to as the Tech. And so they had many programs up there, and I got the necessary teaching credentials along with my industry experience to start this new teaching career, and it lasted 18 years. And then life happened. There was a kind of a reorganization of the campus. A new presidency was put in place, and I had to find a job. And so after probably not quite a year, I got 2 job offers on the same day. I remember that.
That's always difficult.
Yeah, it was. One job was to Oklahoma at a technical college to continue teaching, or one was to San Francisco to become an adjuster for State Farm Insurance as an adjuster. And so at that time, it was as if somebody just turned my head to the west. And that was the right decision. I think my wife told me this morning, she said, "I'm the one that turned your head, by the way." She's from Sacramento.
Well, that's her job.
Yeah, absolutely. She said, "I just can't do Oklahoma." Yeah.
Aren't women wonderful?
Yeah.
Especially when you're wives.
I've been married to her for 37 years. And we have 3 girls and 1 boy. Our youngest is in her mid-20s now. Proud parents of 5 grandsons, no granddaughters.
Well, it's catching up for all the females.
Truly.
Ahead of.
Yeah, but we're thinking pink. We would like a granddaughter someday. So the San Francisco experience was tremendous. We met a lot of, we were on what they call the North Bay, which is in Marin County.
Right.
And it was just a very wonderful growing experience. And my wife and I met some wonderful people, became very good friends, still are with them. And then after about 2.5 years, I got just kind of a random email saying that they needed an auto body instructor in Spanish Fork High School. And so my wife told me I am not missing any more birthdays of these grandkids. And so we packed it up and we went to Spanish Fork High School. And that same type of teaching position, teaching auto body, lasted for 2 years. But I have to tell you, Lane, the position that I'm teaching at now, I had heard about back in 2011 when I lost my job in the Richfield area. And I had this feeling that if maybe I just hung tight and prepared a little bit, that maybe an opportunity to get an interview may happen. And so last October, I got a phone call from the administration at Dixie Technical College, which is up on that same exact airport that I landed on 25 years prior. That's where they built it, if you've been up there.
I've landed on it.
Okay, so that's where we're talking, where this new college is, technical college. And so they asked me to come interview. And I was so thrilled to be invited to work there. I'm the teacher, the instructor now at Dixie Technical College in the collision repair program. It's a daunting task to open up a brand new program.
Oh, bad.
Because all I have is a shell of a building, and I have to purchase all of the equipment, develop all of the curriculum.
Starting from scratch.
From scratch, and recruiting students to make sure that we have a program. And so it's been a wonderful challenge.
And how long have you been up there?
I've been up there since December 1st. Yeah.
Well, that's barely 3 months.
Sure. And it's coming together pretty good. It's pretty interesting, the events that took place in such a short amount of time. after the job offer in October, I had to sell a house in Spanish Fork. I had to buy a house in Dixie. And so what happened was we sold our house in Spanish Fork in 3 days.
3 days?
Yeah, 3 days, okay. And we were under contract in the house that we purchased here. It really turned out to be a blessing because it was a vacant house. And so that always makes it nice where you don't have to wait for people to move out. But we were under contract the next week. And my wife, who also works for the state of Utah, needed to get a transfer down here. And those just don't come very quickly. And so we waited just no more than about 2 or 3 weeks. And so she was transferred here, and so she's working. But the very best piece of this is that when I came down in December 1st, my mother, who was suffering from advanced Alzheimer's, was still alive. And I was able to enjoy being with her pretty much every day for the next month before she passed away, and be with my dad and give him some support too. So those 4 pieces just came together so quickly. And so here I am. I consider myself the luckiest man on earth, to quote Lou Gehrig.
Wrong.
No?
I'm the luckiest man on earth.
Okay.
You're third.
All right. All right. But it's
No,
just...
you're probably lucky. Well,
Yeah.
it all began when
Yeah.
you landed up there on that
It
runway.
did. It did. Who could have ever predicted the future on that? And the building that I'm working in over there is right on that runway. And I think every morning I look out there and I look towards the south down that runway, and it's pretty amazing to think of this story that just, as quick as a dream. Yeah.
How did you meet your wife?
Well, after I returned home off of a church mission, I got a phone call. And it was this young lady that was visiting her grandma. She was born and raised in Sacramento, and she was visiting her grandma in Riverside. And so I thought, well, that could be a little risky, perhaps, inviting, it was a blind date, because I just invited her out. She asked, back in those days, the young people had dances. And she got my number from somebody. She asked, are there any dances in town this weekend? I said, no, there's not, but do you want to go out? And so the rest, you may say, is history, but we courted for, I guess, a year. And it felt right, and I proposed, and she said yes, and so that started our togetherness in the Riverside area.
You said she works for the state. What does she do?
She works for the Department of Childhood Protection Services, and it's a fairly stressful job.
I'll bet.
She works with families that are struggling with drug abuse, and her job is to make sure the children are safe and that they are placed in homes that can take care of them until the parents can maybe get rehabilitated and figure out that they're well enough to become parents again. Yeah, but she's been doing that. She just told me today that she was accepted to graduate school, and so she'll be a certain age. She would not forgive me if I told her age right now, but she'll be one of the grandmas getting her master's degrees.
Well, that'll be great.
Yeah.
She's going to school where?
She is going to school through an extension, I think through the Utah State University. Okay. Yeah. And so we were just talking about it this morning, and she's tremendous. She just has wonderful skills, wonderful children, grandchildren. That is just the center of our lives.
Tell me about your children.
Okay. My oldest, Christine, lives in Cedar City, and she's the mother of two little boys, 9 and 4, 9 and 5 perhaps. And she's married to a wildland firefighter who goes on these fires all around the country during the summer months. In fact, he's in Florida right now burning down trees as part of his crew in Cedar City. And my second is my son, Kyle, and he is married, and they just purchased their first home just last week, and they live in the Orem area. Their new home is in Orem, and he served a mission in Peru, and very fluent in Spanish. In fact, I think that was his major, is Spanish. He kind of fell in love with the language. They're doing great. My third is Casey. She's married, and she lives in Monroe with her husband, and she's a registered nurse, and they live on 11 acres, and those little boys are kind of farm boys, and she has 3 little boys, and she's doing fine. And my fourth is Cami.
How do you spell that?
C-A-M-I, but it's actually Camille. We call her our little hippie daughter, and she lives in South Lake Tahoe, her and her husband. And so they don't have any children yet, and they're hard workers, and we really miss them being the furthest away. Yeah. So all in all, everything's going very well for us right now. I would like to maybe talk about an event that's coming up in a couple of
Go
months,
ahead.
if that's okay.
Tell us.
As my shirt says, it's Dixie Tech, and we have a celebration coming on in a car show that will be May 12th. And we're expecting probably at least a couple thousand people up to this event. We're going to have major sponsors putting up funds to do it the right way. We'll probably have 200 or 300 show cars, and we'll have rock and roll bands and a lot of food, and we'd like to invite any and everybody to come up and come look at the facility. We'll have tour guides there, if you will, to show off every department. We've got over 30 full-time departments now where we are teaching up at Dixie Technology College. It's tremendous. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, I think technical aspects of training has kind of taken a back seat to the other training, and it's probably just as good or better than as far as making a living and so forth.
You know, people are still driving cars. They're getting very sophisticated. People still need transmissions rebuilt along the way. People are building houses, and we have a wonderful program that teaches electrical and plumbing and heating and air conditioning, welding, full nursing program, which is tremendous, drafting, the IT world with all of the computer skills. And it is just a beautiful campus. And so if the traditional academia pathway is it's not for everybody. Some people want to work with their hands. They want to figure these things out. And one thing I do love about that vocational technical education is that you a lot of times get to see immediate results. Right. The CNC department takes a block of aluminum and they mill parts, and you know, everything that our world is built on parts and repairs, and so my program, we do a lot of painting, and so we're getting ready to get a brand new paint booth, and we'll be painting big trucks and small cars and refrigerators and skateboards, and everything has paint on it. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, I understood when they had that last big snowstorm up in northern Utah, there were 400, they call them automobile crashes now. I used to call them accidents. But
Oh, yeah.
400 in one day in Utah.
Yeah.
So there must be a lot of opportunity there to
Yeah, there. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there is a lot of opportunity right now. What's happening to the average age technician, not just in collision repair, but in all of the mechanical trades and in construction, that average age is going higher and higher, which means the young kids aren't getting into it, and so it's creating, in North America, it's creating a labor shortage. And sometimes some of these shops who I work with in placing graduates, they're telling me, another snowstorm, they just don't have enough technicians to get to these cars soon enough to get them repaired. So it's quite a challenge.
Well, to do that body work, it's almost like you're an artist.
Truly, yeah, and to color match a car or a truck with the high metallics and the pearlescent colors nowadays, it has to be perfect, and we pay a lot of insurance premiums.
Right.
And so we want to make sure the cars are perfect and repaired safely, for sure.
Speaking of the technical aspect of a career, when I was in law school, they told the story about a lawyer who hired a plumber, and when he got the bill, it was over $300. Now, this was a long time ago when $300 was something.
Sure.
But he called the plumber and he said, well, that's like $150 an hour. You're only here 2 hours. He said, I'm an attorney and I don't even charge that much. And the plumber said, well, when I was an attorney, I didn't either. So there is a career in technology.
Yes. Yeah, it's here to stay. I will have to say about cars, they're getting safer. Airbag technology, and with the cameras and sensors and anti-collision avoidance systems and 11 onboard computers, and now in Europe you have driverless cars, and so that will be coming here. And between the GPS and the computers, these cars drive themselves, and they brake for themselves in the case of an emergency. And so it's an exciting world to be part of. Yeah, electric cars. They say within the next 10 years, 1 out of 3 cars will be electric. So that poses a new challenge on how we repair these cars. And on it goes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about your parents.
I have 2 of the greatest parents anybody could ask for. My father's a very competitive person, played professional baseball when he was young and starting a new family, and was self-employed for 40 years. And my brother and I were part of the landscape crew growing up. We didn't necessarily like it, but that's just what we did. We worked with Dad during the summers. And so we worked. I did know that I didn't want to do that when I became an adult. But it taught me a great work ethic. Dad is and was a hard worker. He's still with us. He just turned 90 last week. And he golfs between 2 and 3 times a week still. Loves to play competitively and have his side bets, and gets upset when he doesn't play very good. My mom, as I mentioned a little earlier, they were married 69 years. And my mom was always the wind beneath all of our wings. She was just a wonderful person. And the Alzheimer's just got so progressive that she'd stopped talking, and she eventually stopped eating like she should. And it was an awful couple of last weeks of her life to go through that. And so we know she's in a better place, and so I have just nothing but great memories of my parents. Sometimes I have to remind my dad to be a little happier, even though your golf game might have not been what you wanted. Maybe didn't have enough birdies or pars today.
Well, I know your father, and he's a character. He teaches Sunday school class, the adult class in our ward, and he has a character.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. And And what's interesting is now that he can't drive, which just happened less than 2 weeks ago, now he has to be the one receiving some of the help, which he's helped everybody his whole life. But it's not an easy virtue to accept help. And I think maybe we all have to get through that. And, but it's going to work out between people in his community and an occasional Uber drive. We'll get him where he needs to be. And what's nice is my brother's in St. George, and I have a sister that's in St. George also. And so, yeah, he's doing okay.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, he's doing okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we got 2 minutes left. Anything else you want to tell us? Remind us about this fundraiser.
Yeah, it's called Hoodstock, and it's going to be at Dixie Technology College, which is the old airport road. It's now called it's called Technology Ridge. Technology Ridge, and it's going to be December 12th at 8 a.m. We're going to have a flag ceremony at 8 a.m. and we're going to have a pancake breakfast so that we can raise money for Skills USA. And it's a lot of our students that will be competing up at the state tournament in all of the skills in another month. And so we want to raise scholarship money so that they can go to Kentucky, Louisville for the national tournament. It'll go till 3 o'clock, and we're going to have a lot of food, a lot of fun, and a lot of amazing cars to see.
And what was the date on this again?
Excuse me, it is May 12th.
May 12th.
May 12th, and yeah, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Sounds like a fun outing.
Yeah, please come. Yeah, bring your cameras. It's going to be a good time.
One thing back to the runway up there. I was flying
Yeah.
a Piper Cub one day with my brother-in-law, and we bounced down the runway.
Yeah.
And I apologized to him. And he said, well, any landing you can walk away from is a good landing.
Yeah. Oh, well, with the wind up there, sometimes that's a challenge.
Well, Andy, it's been good talking with you. This is Lane Ronald from the campus of Dixie State University. Thank you for being with us on A Story to Tell.